All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our last Black History Month event. Today, we will be hosting a wonderful panel of STEM professionals who will share their experience with you all, but also dive a little deeper in looking at how we can increase representation in the STEM fields for our Black and Brown students. So we are excited to have everyone here. My name is Tanisha Holland. I am a counselor here at Grossmont and also serve on the professional development team here. And I'm very excited to announce I'm the AMSA, so the American Medical Student Association faculty advisor on campus. So I work with our pre-med students and it's been a joy. So I'm honored to be able to speak with you all. And then I'm gonna let Jason introduce himself.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jason Allen, counselor and Emoja coordinator at Grossmont College. This is our final Black History Month 2021 celebration. Crazy that we're already at the end of this month. Time has been flying. It's been an absolute blast. We've had other really great programs as well. You can find those on the Grossmont College YouTube channel. Please hit that subscribe button so we can keep this amazing content coming to you. Welcome.
Fantastic. And so before we jump into introducing our panelists, I would like to take a moment to give a land acknowledgement. So we here at Grossmont College would like to make a public announcement that, we honor the people on the land of the Native American and Indigenous communities and nations, and that this acknowledgement serves to honor specifically the Kumeyaay people for the land in which Grossmont College resides. So we want to take a moment to send that acknowledgement. And additionally, we want to make a note that we stand in solidarity with our Asian American and Pacific Islander community. We will not stand for hate, and we are going to stand against the acts of terror, the xenophobia, as well as the acts of terrorism, essentially for the false accusation that our Asian American and Pacific Islander community are the cause of the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's not the case. So with that being said, we support you. And so with that, we would like to get started and jump into our first question for our panelists. And I'm gonna let whoever wants to jump in first, answer this question. And so the first statement is, please introduce yourself and describe your educational and professional backgrounds.
Okay, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Robert Rush. I'm actually a native of San Diego, say partial native. I'm a Navy brat. So I went up and down the West Coast, but I went to Bell Junior High out here in San Diego, and then went to Morris High School out here in San Diego. I did my undergrad work at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, my degree in computer science. I'm finishing up a master's in systems engineering at the Naval Post Grad School. So after I finished undergrad, came back to San Diego, did some contract work as an engineer for a company called Litton PRC. Doubt they exist anymore. People just start buying and switching names as in the DoD engineering field. But after that, started working for what's called SPAWAR, but now it's called NIWC PAC, a Naval Information Warfare Center in Pacific. It's out here in San Diego. Been doing that for about a little over 20 years now. Started off as a software developer. Yes, Morris in the house. Started off as a software developer. Did that for a while. Loved software development, but after a while, I wanted to get into the management side after about 5 or 6 years. So I went and got my PMP, and then since then, I've been doing project management of software projects, and then started doing program development. So now doing program development in the Space and Intelligence Systems division. Just a little brief bio.
I'll go next. My name is Latifah Brown, and I'm a high school chemistry teacher. I teach at Otay Ranch High currently. So my educational background, I grew up in Los Angeles, went to high school there, and then I came to San Diego State. I got my bachelor's degree there in cell and molecular biology, and then I went on to get my teaching credential and master's at UCSD. After that, I traveled for 8 years. I lived in Michigan, and then we moved back to California, and then kind of back all over the place. The whole time I taught, I've taught everything from chemistry, biology, AP Chem, AP Bio, Earth Science, you name it. I think I have a credential for it. You gotta stay loose when you're traveling. I am currently teaching, like I said, at Otay Ranch High. I teach chemistry there, and I'm also a doctoral student in the CC Lead program at San Diego State University with Tanisha. So very happy to be here.
I'll go next. How's it going, everyone? My name is Jeremy Hamilton. I'm from a small town in Arizona called Morenci. And after graduating from high school, I went to study at the University of Arizona, where I got my material science and engineering degree with a minor in math. I think the next question will touch on this, but the reason I went into engineering was just because I was good at math and science. So it was a natural fit for me. So I graduated from U of A. I actually participated in a club called NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers at U of A. And that's how I got my job and how I moved out to San Diego. And for the past 6.5 years, I've been working as an engineer at a company called Solar Turbines. And actually, recently, because of COVID, just got laid off from my job. But one message I wanted to share with you guys today was that I'm very excited and very hopeful for the future, not only because I have an engineering degree and there's so many opportunities out there for me, but also because I was an engineer, financially, I'm good. So I don't have to worry as if someone who didn't have a STEM background. So that's my brief background.
I can go next. Can you guys hear me? My name is Lisa Young, and I'm a registered nurse. I've been nursing for 32 years. My background is in maternal child health. I got my undergrad from Dominican College in San Rafael and my master's degree in nursing from University of Pacific. I currently work for Blue Shield of California as a utilization review nurse. And that's a little short bio about me. Thank you.
I'll go. Hi, my name is Candace Gray, and I work for General Atomics in Poway. I've been there for about 12 years. I'm originally from Newport News, Virginia, and I came out to California after my undergrad degree in mechanical engineering from Kettering University in Flint, Michigan. And I recently finished my master's in organizational leadership from Point Loma Nazarene University here in San Diego.
I can go next. Good evening, everybody. Huru, my name is Dr. Aisha Fields. I'm the International Director for the All African Peoples Development and Empowerment Project, which is an African-led development organization that seeks to win Black people, African people with skills, all the skills you all have, to contribute those skills to creating development programs that improve the quality of life for African people everywhere around the world. By profession, I'm an applied optical physicist. I have my undergraduate degree from Hampton University, and I have my master's and PhD from Alabama Agricultural Mechanical University. I have worked as a researcher. I've worked as a professor, high school teacher. I've worked in a lot of different fields as it relates to STEM. But right now, my passion is making sure that all the skills that we have as Black people go towards creating the future that Black people want and deserve. So I'm looking forward to this panel, and thank you for inviting me.
All right, I think I'm up next. My name is Rasson Sampson, San Diego native. Went to Scripps Ranch and then went on to San Diego State to get my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. And from there, went to University of Wisconsin-Madison to study engines and got my master's in energy systems. And from there, I moved on to work for a company called Navistar, working on semi trucks, primarily testing them, and then went to work for a company called Karma Automotive, where I was also doing testing there on their electric cars. And since then, I've moved on to testing for Honeywell Aerospace and testing a lot of their components there.
Oh, wow. We have a dynamic panel. Thank you all for sharing your backgrounds. I'm just excited just to jump in deeper with you all. So with that, I'm going to ask the second question. So was becoming a STEM professional your original career goal? And if so, what attracted you to the field of STEM? If it wasn't, what influenced your choice to go into the STEM field?
Well, I'll say for me, that was always sort of a goal to be in that field. My pops was, like I say, he was in the Navy, but he was also he was an engineer. So when he got out, he was a contractor. So that sort of kind of exposed me to engineering. Now, when I went to school, I thought I wanted to be an electrical engineer until I took my first electrical engineering class. Then I immediately decided that I wanted to do something slightly different because I was good in math and good in theory, not actually doing stuff, not with my hands and being neat architecture stuff. But yeah, that wasn't my field. But problem solving, that was right up my alley. So I talked to one of the professors, and he was like, "You might want to try computer science." So that was it was new to me at the time. I hadn't done any programming really prior to that, but once I got into that, I fell in love with it. But like I said, I love math, so that helped. I knew it made a lot of money coming out. As far as like with the undergrad degree, you can come out in the technical fields and make a lot more money than you can in a lot of other fields. So that also drew me to the field. But yeah, no, I've loved it, never regretted it. Never really feels too much like work when you're having fun. So it's been a good ride.
So I've always loved science. I was the kid who got told to go do the dishes, and I was doing experiments in the dishwater with salt and pepper. So I'd get in trouble, but I was doing my chores. Always loved science. In fact, when I started college, I was pre-med. I wanted to be a pediatrician. However, my entire time in college, I was mentoring and tutoring. Every winter in science, I would do like a camp for kids. One of my professors ran it and recruited us, Black and brown kids, because we had Black and brown students in these programs, and we get them ready for science fair. So towards the end of my undergrad, I decided maybe I should teach. I really like doing this, and it's pretty rewarding and fun and all that good stuff. So that's me in science.
I'll go next. So originally, STEM wasn't my focus or what I wanted to do for a career. But as 18-year-olds, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what was out there. I'm actually a first generation graduate in my family. And so my parents didn't go to college. So really what made me pursue STEM was when I was 18, I was at school. I Googled what majors make the most money. And you see engineering, business, doctors, lawyers. And I didn't want to be in school till I was 30 to become a doctor or a lawyer. I wanted to make money as soon as possible. So that's what led me to becoming an engineer. And I was very happy with that choice.
Hi, for me, science has always been a love of mine. I was also a science nerd too when I was in high school. Going into nursing was my first career choice. I have a passion for helping people and helping people understand the healthcare system, as well as making sure that they get their needs met. And it's also one of those careers when you come out of college, you are making a very good salary, and so that also helped me making my decision.
Well, for me, I always loved math, except for geometry, but everything else I loved. And I thought that when I went to college that I was going to study math, but I wanted to go to Hampton. And when my family took me to see about scholarship opportunities, they didn't have any math scholarships left when I came. So they offered computer science and physics as options for scholarships. And I had taken physics in high school and I had done well. And I was convinced by one of the professors that physics was going to allow me to use my love of math. So I decided to go ahead and go for it. And I realized that as studying in undergrad, that there were lots of opportunities for travel, for just personal development, even because I wasn't so excited about physics. I have to be honest. My focus really was outside of math, trying to find a way that whatever I did was going to impact the Black community. Like that was my orientation growing up as a child. My parents, my entire community made sure that I recognized that I had a responsibility to African people. And so I wanted to find a way that if I couldn't directly do math, at least I was going to be meeting that obligation that I knew I had to our people. And physics gave me an opportunity to travel, see the conditions that our people are living in all over the world, see what kind of challenges we have in terms of, educational opportunities, and just the general kind of, barriers that we're confronted with as a people. And so while it wasn't my initial choice, I didn't really think that I would go into physics. I learned a lot. And I think that it gave me an opportunity and a foundation to do what I'm doing now. So, so I'm glad that I took the route that I took.
For me, math and science, like a lot of the other panelists, were always subjects that I was drawn to. And I really enjoyed taking things apart and putting them back together, trying to figure out how different machines worked. And so I was always interested in that. But the thing that really got me into STEM was as a kid, I was really into the Jetsons cartoon and Rosie the robot. I was just like so enamored. Like when I grew up, I wanted to build a robot that could do my chores for me. And so I found out that engineers could design and build robots. And so that's what got me into STEM.
The way I got into STEM was pretty much always knew I wanted to get into the automotive industry and basically get paid to play with cars. So I've been fortunate to have the opportunity to do a lot of that, a lot of testing in wind tunnels and track days and things like that. So that's kind of what drove me to get into it, is just the idea that I could basically get paid to play with toys and have fun with that.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think I heard a lot of things here in terms of, being either part of a group or community that helped you along the way, or, being, pushed by your parents. And so those are a lot of things I'm sure that our students can relate to. One thing I do want to touch on, if you guys have any personal stories that you experience as a student going in the STEM field, and maybe something that maybe was transformative for you, or it led you to really hunker down and reach out to a support system, or maybe even kind of turned you away a certain path. I know some of you guys switched just because of other influences, but I would really love if you guys can share a personal story that would kind of open up your experience a bit to the students who are watching.
I'll go. For me, Dominican College is in the city of San Rafael, which is located in Marin in California. So it is not a very diverse area within the Bay Area. There were literally 5 African-American nursing students in my whole class. And we did come across lots of barriers, teachers who weren't supportive. So we had to kind of create our own sacred space within the 5 of us in the group, and we all still remain friends today, to just make sure that we could reach out to each other, talk to each other when times get hard, and make sure that we could support each other during the process.
Like I said, a blessing for me going to HBCU was I didn't have that experience like that doing classes at some of the grad schools. I definitely saw the difference. But I always felt the support. But I would say personally, one issue that I had, and I noticed a lot of Black males would have the same issue, is coming in. I came in like on academic scholarship, so I thought I won't say I knew everything, but I didn't study like that in high school, and so I wasn't used to study groups. I wasn't really used to asking for help. I wasn't really used to understanding even the dynamics of a study group, where even if you don't need help, you're helping other people, like all of those types of things that they were sort of kind of missed on me. And I didn't really take advantage of that until I had to take advantage of it, right? And so I needed that help. And that was one thing that I think, I won't say transformative, but it definitely changed sort of my mindset on how stuff was done. Working, so I understood the group concept, done community service all my life, but never on the educational side did I really ever lean on it like that. And then I realized that was a big deal. It helped school, it helped in a lot of other ways. So anyway, that was a big thing that I picked up in school.
A huge lifesaver for me going through, San Diego State, it's much like what Lisa described in the sciences. There aren't very many Black folks, and there aren't very many Black women in STEM. And so you can imagine taking biology and chemistry and organic chemistry and all these other courses. You're looking left and right, and you might be one of one in a lecture hall of 300. And so that first year, the first semester was tough because I had actually transferred from Cal State LA. I went there for a year, which is a small commuter school in LA, to this giant campus. I was fortunate because I knew some people that were STEM majors, and they invited me to this club called the Black Student Science Organization. We're talking 25 years ago, and they're still on campus and they're still thriving. I've been teaching for 18 years, and all of my career since I graduated, I've been in contact with them. The advisor she's my personal advisor. I love her. She's awesome. Her name is Dr. Estrelina Martin. She's over the CASA program at San Diego State, which houses all of the underrepresented student programs for students who want to do research in STEM. She's still the advisor. When I first got there, she wasn't the advisor, and I begged her to be the advisor because she was the only other Black professor we had in STEM. And she taught 500 level courses. So we didn't even know she was there because some of us weren't at that level yet. So our advisor, who was leaving, let us know she's here. We begged her, we didn't have to. She said yes immediately. And she has kind of been the one to kind of be the thread of success coaching, really is what you want to call it, all the students that have come through. And so that particular program was started by just a group of students who felt marginalized in class, didn't feel connected to professors or to the campus, and they came together, and they were my predecessors. Many of them, actually, I think all of them are physicians now. And they're doing well in the pandemic. And they come back and do things like we had a panel the last 2 years of graduates that come back to just talk about their experiences. And we also have other folks that have gone into research, or some are practicing physicians. So it's been a long-standing tradition, this group. We have an alumni association. I'm the president of that, and that's still going strong too. And it started off as just a little club of friends who needed support because the university was not providing it. So that was my lifeline, and still is till this day. In fact, I'm going to leave at 5 to interview Dr. Martin for a project that Tanisha and I have.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree that those study groups and those lifelines are huge, because college is hard. In high school, I was a kid. I never had to study, always get good grades. It was really easy, but in the moment it feels hard. And then you go to college and it's really hard. So my first semester, I was on scholarship. My first semester, I got a 2.2 GPA, and I never got that bad of grades in my life. And I was on the verge of losing my scholarship if I didn't get a 3.0. So I found study groups, I found tutoring, and that was really transformative to me because it showed me that I really needed to learn how to study. And the study groups, the tutoring groups, finding NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, they're another group that helped me to learn how to study learn the right things to focus on in order to get the grade you needed. So going from a 2.2, I was able to turn it around the second semester of my freshman year and retain my scholarship for the remainder of my college career. So definitely plug into those groups.
I would say community was big for me as well. I went to a small private school. There weren't very many Black students, and I noticed that a lot of the white students just had a lot more academic support. And we had this. There's a system where they would collect like old exams and the answers, and they would kind of pass them around, but it didn't get to the Black students. And so just being a part of NSBE, as Jeremy said, National Society of Black Engineers, we just huddled together and we just supported each other, and we were able to create our own system of, past exams and things like that. So just really networking and having that community of support is what really got me through college.
For me, in terms of like something that I think was transformative, because the kind of research I was doing in graduate school, I traveled a lot, traveled throughout the Caribbean, Africa, Europe, United States, giving presentations, collaborating, doing work to deal with my study topic. And one summer I worked for a couple months in Johannesburg, South Africa. And I was working with the university there, teaching physics, doing physics demonstrations for high school students in the townships surrounding Johannesburg. And so during the day, we would go to different high schools and we would meet the students, do demonstrations with them, tour the schools, visit the communities, and I would see the intense poverty that people were living in. I would see the barriers that the students were up against. I mean, you could talk to them about studying physics, but if they're living in a house that's made out of cardboard, I mean, how relevant really is a conversation around physics at the end of the day? But then in the evening, when I would go to the professors' homes, they lived lavishly, and that really made me recognize that while there were opportunities that I could maybe encourage students to take advantage of, that for the most part, when you look around the world at Black people, we don't really have the kind of opportunities that other people have in this country and around the world. And so it made me realize that that there was another part of that conversation that I wanted to be a part of. And that was, how do we help to create a world where people can actually be their best selves, where people who have the aptitude, who have the interest, who have the love for science or any other field, actually have the opportunities to pursue that. And I started thinking about what kind of research, what kind of science, what kind of, advancements could we make if everybody had the opportunity to put their contribution in the mix. And so I think that that study, that work summer really helped me to see that while I did personally appreciate the kind of opportunities I was given based on my STEM field, that I wanted to be able to be a part of something that was going to make opportunities available for everybody. And I'd have to step outside of STEM to do that. So yeah, so I think that was something that was really transformative for me.
Well, there's already been a lot said. I don't think I have a whole lot to say that hasn't already been said. Just kind of continue on the theme of finding your group to help you get through the challenges of undergrad and grad school. I know there's no way I would have been able to get through my undergrad or my grad school education, without finding a group to support and work through a lot of the issues that we're all encountering. So I definitely stress, finding your network.
Absolutely, that is vital in anything that we do. Creating community, finding people who will support you, keep you accountable, will help you to be successful in all that you do. But particularly in the STEM field, it seems like it's a necessary. thing to do given the rigor of your academics and expectations that you have as a STEM student. So great insight. Actually, I'm going to deviate a bit off of the questions. And I heard that, well, I know Candace and Robert both went to HBCUs. And so I just want to ask you two if you can share maybe your experience at the HBCUs and how impactful that was for you as a STEM student. That question is kind of coming from a little research that I did about HBCUs graduating more students with STEM degrees than any other college. And so that's huge. That's huge. So I would love your insight and your experience as an HBCU grad.
For me, yeah, it's somewhat hard to compare, like I said, because that's where I went for undergrad, so that's what I know. But like the support system was definitely there. I think also, Morehouse is a small private school, so it's also the class size. When I got to my senior, junior, and senior year in classes, we're talking like 10 people or less in the class. So like if I wasn't there on time, like I could literally get a call from the professor, like literally, like, why aren't you here? So that's hard to beat. That's hard to beat with that level of support. So it makes it a little easier. It's more of a family environment. All the people in your major, of course, you can ask questions. Everything somewhat was like a group project because you could talk to anybody in the class and have questions if you had, and that was the expectation. It also meant that you're going to be taught harder because they knew you had access. They knew that they could get more out of you. So you were going to be doing a lot more work, and I thought it was a good experience for me. Doing programming, the programming language became sort of kind of secondary because it gets to the point you can learn any programming language. They spent so much time teaching you how to learn and the fundamentals and the algorithm, like the thinking part of it. And then everything else came like secondary. Everything else became really easy. So that was really easy for me. When I took grad level classes at UCSD and some other programming things, they were a breeze. I was like shocked. What was confusing to me was this notion of them giving you information up front and like answers. Like the professor didn't expect me to be in class. I was in class. I was like, what? You don't have to show up? And they give you the notes. I'm like, I've been taking notes for 4 years. They're going to give you notes? That's crazy. So, but that was completely different for me. So for me, that transition made it a lot easier, honestly, for grad school compared to undergrad for me. But the support system was there. I loved it. I mean, I went to Morehouse recruits in San Diego pretty heavily. So I was exposed to Morehouse. I was exposed to the academics. I was exposed to the history. I was exposed to all that at an early age. My pops went to Prairie View A&M, so I was already exposed to HBCUs. So it was a good fit, and I loved it.
I actually didn't go to a HBCU, but sometimes I look back and wish I had, because I think about having that support system, and the school that I went to was just so small, and the percentage of Black students was very small compared to that. And so I wish I had that experience, but I think my thinking coming out of high school was that I wanted to go to a school that was a little more representative of the real world and of, my career trajectory. And so I knew that I wouldn't be in a predominantly Black field. And so I wanted, more diversity, I guess, in my college experience. So yeah.
I do have a comment. You hear me? Yeah, I do have a comment. Yeah, I hear a lot of people say that. The one thing that I will say is, like, my feeling was we grow up in this world what these numbers are what they are. So we're very rarely in an environment with a lot of African Americans. So I was sort of looking forward to that opportunity. I don't think by any means it would hamper or impact me negatively working in the workforce, and I only address that because I talk to kids all the time in our mentoring program, and sometimes their parents raise that concern, right? It's like they're not sure if their kids should go to HBCU because they're going to go to a job and it's not going to be all Black people. HBCUs aren't all Black people. First of all, it's a high percentage, but they're not all Black people. But it's less of, for me, the support system and what you get it's more of that. It's not about we're only talking Black stuff all day or we're learning a different curriculum or something. I don't think it hampers in any way What it did help was seeing some of the other resources, like I said, and studying and working in groups, understanding what was there. We spent so much time even with recruiting, talking about the job interviews, so we could have some real life conversations about how you're going to be viewed differently than maybe the next person. And so things to take into consideration. I use it as an example. When I first started working and I was doing some work in the lab, they told me when I got there that you're going to be in the lab, so you could wear jeans and all that other kind of stuff. Morehouse said, don't do that, right? So they were like, I don't care what they tell you. I don't care what they say. I don't care if they're smiling. I don't care if they say you're your friend. You're going to wear a suit until you prove, something otherwise. So it's just knowing that in the back of the head. And it took a while for them to say, yeah, bro, you really can't be doing network cables in a suit at work. But it's just that grooming and understanding, but it set the tone at my job too. So they knew who I was when I got there, right? And so I do think all those other things matter. So I do think it is a good thing. I'm glad you brought it up, because I know a lot of kids bring that up all the time because they don't really have an experience to compare it to.
Absolutely. Definitely great point of, just explanation, just to touch on that a little bit more. I hear a lot that, students at HBCUs feel supported because there's a lot of representation, faculty members that look like them, and they just feel supported in that way as well. So, and I know, you can find support. So that's something to touch on. So I'm going to ask the last question, and I'm going to turn it over to Jason. And so the last question I really have, and this is for anyone who may have some more information in regards to STEM and some statistics out there. So the question is, can you provide some statistics regarding representation of Black professionals in your STEM fields? If anyone has that, I think that would be helpful. We're really trying to increase the representation. So let's hear some statistics if you guys have some.
I can speak about women representation in STEM. Well, first of all, in general, Black educators, we're about 12%, just men and women. I don't have the number for women versus men, but in STEM in general, there are women make up about 10% of the STEM field. And of that, Black women make up 2% of the STEM field, and that's all disciplines. And if you break them down, women are mostly going into the sciences like biology, earth science, chemistry, but like teaching, education, those fields. When you get into physics and engineering, the numbers are even lower. So we definitely have a need. We have an entire gender of people who aren't giving a voice to these spaces and who aren't really being represented in these spaces. So go for that STEM degree, guys.
Hi, this is Lisa. When Tanisha gave us the questions, I went back and did a little research. Out of all the nurses in the United States, there are 9.9% of those nurses are African American. And in the state of California, the statistics drops even lower. It's like 3.9% of all the nurses in the field. And with a degree in nursing, there is so much more that you can do besides just hospital nursing. I've worked in hospitals, I've done research, there's community health. Currently, I'm working for an insurance program. If you want to get additional education, there is nurse practitioners, nurse midwives, anesthesiologists. So the field of nursing is huge. And we have a huge health disparity that's going on currently. And our community doesn't really trust the healthcare system because they don't see very much representation of people who look like them. And we have a huge need for people in the medical profession to look like us.
I can share. So like I said, I worked for Solar Turbines for 6 years. And in those 6 years, I know every single Black person that was hired to the headquarters here in San Diego to Solar Turbines. And I know them personally. The number of salaried Black professionals at Solar Turbines is between 3 and 4%, and that's nationwide. And there's about 5,000 to 6,000 employees nationwide for Solar Turbines, And so that 3 to 4% translated to something like 50 people. And that includes, Dallas, Texas, where there's a lot of African Americans. There's not as many in San Diego, but 50 people out of 5,000 employees is not much. So we need more. Oh, and one more thing on that. I know it can affect some people differently. I went to a predominantly white school at the University of Arizona, and so I was used to being, the only one. In my major, there were 200 students. I was the only Black one. So it wasn't a big shocker when I came to a company and I was one of 50.
In physics, Black physicists are only 3% of the total population of physicists in this country. And just to kind of put that in perspective, just in terms of, because there are not many physicists, period. I think right now the US is only graduating like 4,000 physicists every year. And I graduated with my PhD in 2004. When I finished that PhD in 2004, I was only the 65th Black woman to get a PhD, period. So, and now, when I was in undergraduate school and when I was in graduate school, there were twice as many Black people graduating with degrees in physics as there are now. And I think in part, what is happening, I know when the school that I went to for graduate school at one time was the #1 producer of Black PhDs in the country. And now that program has been combined because of budget cuts. That program has been combined. That department, in fact, has been combined with engineering and chemistry. It's no longer a standalone program, and it's not receiving the resources, and it's not producing the students that it once did. So what once was, the place where if you wanted to get a PhD in physics as a Black person, that's where you went. It was an HBCU, and I really want to appreciate what Robert said about his experience, because I had friends who went to various, who went to all kind of, like schools with really great names, and everybody was so thrilled. And I'm not throwing a stone at them, but I know my experience compared to theirs was like night and day. And the support that I received, there were no barriers put in my way. It was only wind behind me. Everything was about making sure I got to the finish line. And that was not the experience of the vast majority of my friends and colleagues who went to other, PWI. So I think there's a lot more that could be done to make sure that that Black people are getting these skills. And I think that should be a part of, the conversation as well.
No, and absolutely. I know in the engineering field in general, the numbers aren't high, but even the recent reports are showing like less than 3% of the degrees given out in engineering are going to African Americans, right? So we're not. We got to catch us early. We got to catch us early. We're not even getting the degrees to go into some of these fields, and then so of course you're not going to get the job on the back end. So I think it's very important, like things like this, where we're exposing people, exposing to the opportunities. Because a lot of the jobs, even they'll have diversity groups and they have all this stuff where they're reaching out, and I think they're missing a lot of the things. They're not sort of understanding what the problem is, so they're trying to help. And so we have all these opportunities, but there are no bodies. Like San Diego is sort of hard. Again, the numbers are low of African Americans in the community to begin with. So I would expect, I think like Jeremy was saying, I would expect the numbers to be probably lower on the West Coast than maybe somewhere on the East. But still the numbers across the board are not very high. I have a similar experience. I mean, our job environment is great, but in my branch, for 20 years, I've been the only Black person that was ever in the branch. In the division, I think I'm the only Black person in the division, and there's probably 3 in the department, maybe. And then of that, everybody's not even necessarily a technical person of the people I know. Some of them are engineers, or some of them have their other grades. So the numbers aren't particularly high.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I'm going to turn it over to Jason.
All right, you guys. Hey, what's up? Again, my name is Jason Allen, counselor here at Grossmont College, and I have the second half of the questions for our panelists. Before we do move on, though, I just wanted to, insert some 2 cents of my own, just because I really love the last topic that we were talking about as far as the statistics and looking at the lower representation numbers of Black and African American men and women in these fields. And, it's really a grassroots effort is required. In my time of research while I was doing my doc program, we have to catch kids as early as elementary school, as early as first, second, third grade. And, teachers especially have to do a little bit more recommending our students for advanced classes, advanced English, advanced math, honors. Parents have to push for that, ask the schools to put our kids in some of the harder tracked maths, and not shy away from that, because a lot of times, we get scared and we say, well, I wasn't good at math, or I'm afraid of math. So, I just want my kids just to do normal math, and we'll think about advanced math in high school. But by then, sometimes it could be a bit late, just because we want to build a great culture within our kids, knowing that math and science, it is for them, and that they can really do well. And one thing that, I really encourage people to remember is a lot of times advanced classes have a bit more resources at their disposal to help students do well. A lot of times they feature some of the best teachers and tutoring supports. So, just my 2 cents. I really add that while I was doing my research, I came across some of those tidbits. Okay, before we move on, we had a really amazing question from our YouTube chat. Comes from one of our awesome math professors on our campus, Professor Steve Davis, and his students are in the audience, some of his students. And he asked, can the speakers share how their studies evolved as high school got more difficult and then they moved into their freshman through senior years in college and even in their grad programs? How did your study habits have to evolve to keep up with the demand?
Yeah, I can share. So earlier I spoke on, in high school, I really didn't have to study. I would do my homework and that was it. I would ace the test. So it was really simple in high school. Once I got to college, I tried the same thing. Just do the homework and you'll be good. But as you heard earlier, I basically failed my first semester. So from there, I started going to study groups and started using free resources around campus. At University of Arizona, we had something called a think tank. And basically, it was just a room full of tutors. You go and you do your homework, you can study, and they prepare you for the test. And they also hosted like, okay, you're doing Calculus 2. This is a study guide for Calculus 2. We're going to have like a mock test for Calculus 2 test. So I would go to that prior to each test. And then the other thing I did was utilize office hours. So almost every class has office hours. And you'll learn a lot in office hours, but maybe more so than learning, you're in front of the professor. So when it comes down to you have a 69.5% to get a C or to pass the class, are they going to bump you up just because they give you the benefit of the doubt? They know you're really trying. So those would be like my recommendations, and that's what helped me to graduate.
Anybody else? How did you have to improve your, Robert hit on this a little earlier, but for anybody else who wants to jump in, how did your study habits have to evolve or get better as you progress through your STEM major?
Well, I can just elaborate then on what I was saying earlier, but the main thing goes to what he was saying earlier, is that I wasn't, in high school, I wasn't studying because you're in class all day and it's structured. So really they're forcing you to study when you're in class, essentially. So you're going over the work, they're having you do that. And so you don't realize that. So you think I'm not studying, but really you are, because you're doing the work that's provided for you. When you're in college, sometimes that's optional. Some of the work is optional. Really the expectation is you do however many problems or whatever you need to do for you to fully understand what you're doing. That might be 5 problems for some, but it could be 50 for somebody else. So them telling you 10 problems or whatever is sort of, you're an adult. It's just, it's a suggestion, really. They really want you to know the content. And I think once I understanding that and then getting the help, is sort of, it shifts it. In school, you're doing whatever they're asking you to do. I think when you go into college, you start to understand that you should take ownership of your education. So you're trying to figure out what you're going to get out of it. You're paying, in a lot of cases, you're paying to be taught. So you really want to make sure that you're getting the most out of it that you can get. But that's part of maturity. I was in the same, very similar situation in Germany. I went on academic scholarship, and that first year, it was not great. It was a wake-up call. I was able to fix it by the time I graduated, not in time to save scholarship. So I didn't get all the money back. And they were really cool. They said, there's a lot of kids out here that were grinding from day one. I'm glad you raised your GPA. However, such is life. They were there the whole time. And so it's a wake-up call. So, that cost me some money. But that's also real talk and real love. It's just like, sometimes you can't fix it on the back end. Sometimes you got to take care of it the whole time. But it definitely changed my studying habits, in that I was studying and intentionally studying, consciously thinking, intentionally studying.
Awesome. And, we have some questions from our Moja students and the other students in the audience, which still is really right in line and related to the topic that we're on. So let's transition into sacrifice. A lot of your majors are heavy hitters. I do these ed plans and I see how many units come with being a biology major, being a chemistry major, being a mathematics or a nursing major. So what does that look like for your social lives? As far as did you guys, first of all, did you have to sacrifice some of the fun that you wanted to have and stay disciplined in your pursuit of your degrees? How did that look different? Because I know, I'll let you go ahead.
I can say that for me, I think balance is important. I think much like what Jeremy and Robert said about how they had to learn how to study, and going from high school to undergraduate and into graduate school, I think that's definitely true for me. But one thing I realize is that if you just spend all your time studying, burnout is real likely to occur. There has to be a way that you present your whole self. And I think college should be a time where you learn the field that you've gone to study, but that I think you also have to learn about yourself. You have to learn about the world around you. You have to learn your limits. You have to learn, other things that you may enjoy. I regret not taking a photography class when I was in undergrad. Whatever was on my list is what I took. That was it. I stayed in my department building and I studied, and that was it. And I feel like that there was much more room for growth and much more room for development. And I think one thing that really I want to share that I think is important is building relationships with people, because that's what really helped me navigate college and definitely graduate school. It's what helped me navigate it. And I mean, making relationships and friendships with everybody you can, the secretary in the department, the janitors, the students above you, the students who are in your grade level, the students who are behind you. Make it, because those relationships will help you to come out of there hopefully intact with your, not only the information that you have to go into your field, but that can help to develop you as a human being that's hopefully going out into the world to make some improvements to the world that we're living in. So I think balance is important. You got to study, you got to learn how to study, build relationships, come out of there having developed yourself as a whole human being though.
I really agree that you definitely need to be well-rounded while you're going through the college experience. That is your one space where you have opportunity to grow, but yet still have the safety net if there is a fall or a stumble, like some of our other panelists have talked about. I was a first generation college graduate for my family, so not getting it done really wasn't an option. High school, I didn't really study at all. Things just kind of came very natural to me. The support group that we formed at school, we really took our time and put in the work to do the studying together, but we also played hard. We worked hard and we played hard. And I think that made for a good experience for myself.
Yeah, similar to Lisa, I'm also first generation, and failure isn't an option. So you have to get it done. So there are sacrifices that you have to make, but when you think of it in the big picture, 4 years of sacrifice is nothing to your life, and you can completely change your life. But given that I sacrificed during the week, Monday through Friday, and then Friday night, Saturday, I'm a college student. I'm 18, 19 years old, enjoying life, going hard. And I was able to balance that with getting my grades. And it was funny, my friends that weren't engineering or STEM majors, they'd be so confused. Jeremy, come out to this party on Tuesday night. Come out to this party on Wednesday night. I know I got to study. And they couldn't understand, but as a STEM major, you do have to sacrifice more than some other majors. But I'll tell you, it is worth it.
And I love that. There's a part two to this question as well. And I'm so glad that you guys went in this direction, just because, the community college student demographic can be a bit different, just because we have a lot of students who work full time, or even have part-time jobs, or who have family obligations like little brothers and sisters who they help with. And we even have students who have kids. With that said, and your knowledge of the STEM fields and what it takes to be a successful STEM student, STEM major, do you have any advice for someone who may be juggling multiple obligations like that while also juggling a major that's as heavy as STEM, or some of the STEM majors as heavy as they can be?
Well, I would say when I was in school, my sophomore to senior year, I worked. And so there was some level of juggling around that needs to be done. But the reality is, I don't feel like, since I've been considered grown, it's changed a whole lot, right? You do a lot of stuff in life, you're going to be juggling all the time. So I do think it's possible, but time management becomes like a core skill. Being able to really, for me, it's writing down. If I don't write stuff down, there's a good chance it's not going to happen. So I would have to write stuff down, keep track of things. Learning how to say no. There's always something to do. And as you get a little older, you start realizing that those things you missed that you thought you couldn't miss are not that serious, because they come around next week and the next week and the next week and the next week, or whenever the time frame is. So yeah, definitely it's not easy. So don't let anybody say, oh, it's easy, you should be able to do it. No, it's not that. It's hard, but you still are able to do it. You just have to make that effort to do it, and understand that's sort of what the real world's going to be. You're going to be balancing community service, hopefully, as you get older, but you're going to be balancing your family. You're going to be balancing maybe your church, whatever other organizations that you're going to be balancing so many things. So it's a skill that is good to pick up at an early age.
Yeah, I totally agree with Robert's comments. When I was in school, I worked the whole time I was in school. By my senior year at college, I was married and had my oldest daughter. And so juggling, learning how to be a new parent, a new wife, in nursing school, and still having time for fun, I was able to do it, but it was a lot of work, and you definitely have to lean on your support system.
I didn't have any kids. I still don't have any kids when I went to school, but I can speak on working. I put the pressure on myself to fund my whole education. I didn't have a full ride scholarship, so I did have to work. And what I did was I actually worked in a copper mine during the summer, and I would work a lot, many hours in that copper mine, and I would save all my money during the summer, and it would pay for my semester, my school year. So my suggestion would be, if you can find a job that is temporary, meaning like a summertime or when school isn't in session, you can, grind that time. And then when school opens up, you can focus on school. And that's what I did. And that's what helped me. Yeah, copper mine, Morenci, Arizona. Check it out.
Wow.
Bro, that is real work. That is like legit real work.
How do we even follow that up? Because I mean, I was getting ready to talk about my job at the mall, but you know, I don't even want to mention it no more. Wow, that's awesome.
But the benefit of working in a copper mine is it pays well, so it was worth it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. That's so awesome. We have some more amazing questions. And I promise, Tanisha, I'm gonna get back to your list as well. But the comment, the chat. Oh, okay. You don't get. Okay, we're good. The chat. We have a really good one. A lot of times, you know, there's this perception because of social media, because of television, that you know, and movies, fraternities, sororities is all about the party life. It's all about, you know, socializing and, you know, all the cliche things that we see on television. So the question from the panel, from the audience, one of our administrators on campus, can you discuss the value of fraternities and sororities and what kind of value that may have added to your educational experience?
So I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, but I did pledge after my undergrad time, so I can't talk for the timing. So I know one of the questions is juggling the time, and then I didn't juggle the time on the campus. I was working doing something else, so I can't really speak to that. What I can speak to though is it is a lot more than partying and doing all of that. Obviously, I still pledged at a very young age. I was like 23 when I crossed, so there was still all of that side of it, but there's the community service aspect and it's the networking side of it. The networking is like completely underrated as far as joining any organization, whether it's a Greek organization, whether it's NSB or, you know, you join for those things, but the networking is so strong. You don't think about it at first. That's not your primary reason for joining, but then when you need stuff, I know somebody in every field. I know someone in every area. I've never go somewhere where you're a stranger. You always have a friend wherever you're going. I think that's completely missed by a lot of people. That's something that you should definitely do. Not the only reason, obviously, you pledge, but that is a strong part of that. But I will say, going back to the other part with college is more than just the school part of it. Sometimes we get caught up and we are doing what we need to do, but absolutely it is your experiences. So you should be making time, whatever the time is, to go have fun and have friends and do all of that. If you're not doing that, then quite honestly, the campus is useless. You could learn on the internet, right? The information is out there. You can go teach yourself anything if that's what you really wanted to do. I mean, obviously minus the paper, but it's the college experience, meeting people, learning new ways of doing stuff. And then even I saw a comment on one of the chat things, but even going to an HBCU, the thought is, again, there's a lot of Black people. Black people are super diverse. I mean, everybody should know this. But I mean, outside of just talking about the whole diaspora of that, just even within the states, somebody from Cali in San Diego is not the same as somebody from LA, not the same from somebody from the Bay, most certainly not the same from Houston, and the South is not the same. Houston South is not the same as Atlanta South, is not the same as Miami. There's all different ways of doing stuff, different cultures. And so anyway, understanding that experience, dealing with all different types of people, that you have to make time for that. You have to make time for that.
And you know, I wanted to address the fraternity and sorority questions as well, because I mean, some people who aren't a part of that world or who are not as familiar with it may not know. A lot of these organizations have ridiculously high standards, like your Black and your Black fraternities and sororities. Really high GPA standards. Like they're not even looking at you if you're below a 3.0. Some of them are even higher than that. And you know, I also attended Morehouse College, and my experience with Alpha Phi Alpha, with Omega Psi Phi, with Kappa Alpha Psi, with our sisters across the street at Spelman College, you know, they weren't letting you in if you weren't representing academically, if you weren't strong, if you weren't functioning. And you know, they turned out to be some of the most dynamic, educated, hardworking people on campus with the highest GPAs. I mean, they were the quintessence or the actual essence of the term work hard, play hard. You know, they worked hard and then they played hard as a means to relieve some of that stress and strain that they were. Yeah, so amazing. Let's move on to we have some more questions. This one comes from our awesome professor, math professor, Shirley Pieria. at Grossmont College, we usually see a huge drop of Black students from our Cal 1 to our Cal 2 class. Do you have any recommendations for increasing or strengthening that pipeline for our Black students so that we're not losing them in between those classes? And you know what, that's a leveled question. But yeah, let's see if we can tackle that as a panel, you guys.
Yeah, I actually have an interesting story from Calc 2. So Calc 1, Calc 2, those are the weed out classes, right? So they do what they say. They weed you out, they kick you out of the major. Calc 2, first test, studied really hard, and went into the test and drew a complete blank. Complete blank. So I knew I bombed the test, and when I got the test back, I got a 36%. And the advisor from the math department told me, emailed me and said, maybe engineering isn't for you, maybe you should change your major. And so I kind of took it as a challenge, but another person might take it as like, man, maybe they're right. Maybe I should change my major. Maybe I'm not good enough for this. So what I would say is, as a faculty, as a math faculty, you just need to be there for your students, encourage them, and you know, just provide all the resources to help them be successful instead of suggesting that they change their major. Or else I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be an engineer. So that's what I would say.
I think also pushing the resources. I know Grossman has tons of resources for students, so they probably have to accept those resources, but pushing the resources to the kids, like you said, those are weed out classes and they have a lot in different fields. The earlier point, obviously we talked about earlier, is more helpful if kids are getting in these advanced classes at the younger ages. That makes them a little bit more prepared when they're getting into school. And what they'll start to realize is the advanced classes aren't really advanced in high school. They're really like the baseline. And then the other classes, they're teaching you less than what you actually need. And it's sort of I feel like a lot of times they're setting kids up for failure. It makes them, it's a harder struggle that they have to push up with. And I'm a firm believer in that people adjust to the bar. Whatever the C level is, people will come. If I tell you you need to do 10 things, you'll do 10. If I told you 15, you'll do 15. Whatever that number is, I tell you, you'll go to that bar. So a lot of it starts earlier, like I said, getting up to that point. But for the kids on the campus, they just have to utilize the resources that are there and not be ashamed if they don't know something. Like I said, pride can be bad. I'm thinking of Dave Chappelle, like pride's a hell of a drug. But it's like when people get hooked and they're in their heads worried about something instead of just getting the help that they need. If you don't know it, hiding not knowing it doesn't make you know it. Like, it's not going to help you any. So if you don't know it, go get that help. Everybody else did it too. People don't know unless they're taught. In particular at Calculus 2, I think what makes it really hard is Calculus 2 isn't a thing you can figure out. Like some basic math and algebra, you can logic your way through it. You can't logic your way through calculus a lot of the time. You have to actually understand what you're doing. So.
Love that question. You know what? I'm gonna even jump in on this one too. You know, I love that question, Shirley. The thing about it too is the pipeline really begins a lot earlier before a lot of our students on college. If we're trying to strengthen the pipeline at that point, you know, sometimes it could be a little bit behind the 8 ball. So, you know, with Umoja or when we're dealing with students, you know, it's really important that we're reaching back to some of our feeder high schools and even sometimes as low as middle school, making sure that, you know, they have math clubs, making sure that we're a part of their math clubs, making sure that Grossmont College faculty is going and joining the high school math clubs and encouraging, somehow finding a liaison on those campuses that work with the Black students to encourage them to get involved with the math club as early as the freshman year of 9th grade, so that, you know, they're strong, they have a strong, robust and passion for math by the time they reach our door. Because, you know, it's hot and heavy, it's fast and furious when the semester starts. I see how hard our faculty work, how crazy these semesters can be, how you're, you know, under the gun to grade all these papers and to help students. Sometimes, you know, you don't have time to do all those extra intangibles. So yeah, I would say that the work definitely begins with partnering with our K through 12 colleagues in the game as early as possible. Also partnering with our parents, with the parents of our students as well, getting them to afraid of math Maybe they had, poor experiences as well in their history. So now that they're passing those negative feelings back to their kids. So, that type of work really begins with the whole community early, if that makes sense. Love it, love it. Keep these questions going. Okay, I think we can get back onto, oh, no, we have one more really good one. I think we touched on this a little earlier. One of our students asked, how did you guys find the focus? How did you stay focused? Were there ever like times where you kind of lost focus? Because these are intense majors. Did you ever lose that focus, and how did you regain that focus?
I can go. So what made me want to pursue engineering and want to put myself through school was not wanting to put that burden on my parents. So like I had a deep desire not to put that burden on my parents and to succeed. So it kept me focused, and I didn't really ever lose focus during school. And so I say, you got to find really the reason why you want to do it, because I knew me doing this would change future generations for my family. And also for me paying for it, I wouldn't put that burden on my parents. So that really drove me and kept me focused.
I think just to add to that a little bit, I think just getting really clear on why you're doing what you're doing. For me, like I said before, I just knew that, I was going to go into a career and I didn't want to end up hating my job. So I knew in the short term, just working through that would allow me to actually pursue a career that I really knew that I was pretty sure that I would enjoy. And, that was able to help, drive me through a lot of the rough times.
Awesome. Did anybody else want to chime in on that one before we go to the next question? Are we good? Good to go? Okay. So we've touched on many of these questions that Tanisha had for questions 5 through 6. There's one we can go a little bit deeper into. You guys have mentioned a lot of your networks, a lot of your spheres of influence. One more time, can we go over what organizations and networking groups or clubs would you recommend our students look at who are STEM majors and want to do well in the STEM fields? And this time we'll go ahead and record. I'll write down some of those organizations so that we can get a email list going out of our STEM majors who are in attendance today as well.
I'll go. So I was a part of NSBE, and I still am, the National Society of Black Engineers. I am in the San Diego professional chapter, and also SWE, Society of Women Engineers. That was also a great organization to help empower women in STEM.
For me, a really important organization that I was involved in from undergrad all the way through my PhD was the National Society of Black Physicists and Physics Students. So I encourage anybody who is studying physics or astronomy to look into joining that organization. And then also, I would be remiss if I didn't encourage any student in STEM to consider joining the All African Peoples Development and Empowerment Project. That's the organization that I am responsible for leading. We build agricultural, educational, and healthcare programs in Africa and in African communities around the world. We offer internships, volunteer opportunities, and other ways that students can really be a part of dynamic programs, build their resumes and have relationships that can take them into their future. So I would really encourage people to do that. And they can find more out about us by going to developmentforafrica.org.
I would find that Black Nurses Association, they're usually a chapter in most cities. And then another opportunity, I think, for the students is if there's a specific area that you are looking at wanting to work in your field, to get involved in a community-based organization so that you can get that hands-on grassroots experience, and that there is a lot of work that still needs to be done as far as healthcare disparities. You know, clearly, like we just saw last year, we got hit with COVID, which was something no one has ever experienced. But then we got to have people out there on the front lines in the hospitals giving vaccines now, making sure that people in the community are still okay. So even if it's not a club organization, but if it's something that you have a passion for, get involved in the community-based organization as well. There's lots to learn there. It's a great opportunity to network with other people in fields where you can grow and reach back to. And it's also a good volunteer opportunity as well.
Absolutely love these answers, you guys. You know, and this kind of takes me back to our math professor's question as well, Professor Pieria. You know, when we're talking about doing more things to increase the retention rates for our Black and African American students within the math programs, you know, I would definitely start with some of these organizations that are being listed right now by our professionals, seeing whether or not there's opportunities to bring chapters to our campus, or at least partnering with the local chapters for some of these Black engineering and math organizations to come partner and provide services on our campus, or even workshops or opportunities, or just even mentorship opportunities for our students. You know, it's getting them tied in, getting them locked into these fields as soon as they, you know, I wouldn't even wait till Cal 2 or Cal 1. You know, as soon as they're taking the pre-Cal sequence, you know, locking them in, and then also getting them some of these mentors who look like them or who may come from similar backgrounds as them, getting them locked in with these mentoring opportunities. Just because, you know, like I said, the faculty, they're under the gun. They have a lot on their plate. So asking them to mentor, you know, a ton of students at any given semester, you know, it's probably a lot. You know, I've seen the course loads, and it is a lot. But, you know, leveraging some of these community resources and partnerships, I think would be key, huge. I wanted
to speak on the organizations. So going back to the question about keeping your focus, when I went to the NSBE National Convention, there were 10,000 plus people, Black people in suits that were engineers that had done it. So it allows you to see like, oh, all of these people have done it. Why not me, right? So it allows you to refocus and to kind of be motivated by seeing others do it too. I know we share all these horror stories of, you know, hard math classes and the grind, but I just want you guys to be reassured that, you know, you guys can do it. We all did it. You can too.
I like to address that question from the math teacher. There's also on the high school campuses, you know, a lot of them have BSUs. All of my girls were part of the BSU on their high school campuses in Sacramento County, where I'm from. All of the schools had what were called academies. So if it was something, you know, that you wanted to partake in, I had one in biotech, I had one in business, we had one in dance. So there were all kind of academies within the school, so you can get those advanced classes and you get to be surrounded by people who are passionate about what you're passionate about. And, you know, some of those classes also made for volunteer opportunities, things to build your resumes with, and were gateways for you to get into college.
Awesome. Okay, we're coming up on one of our last questions for tonight's evenings. We would love for each one of the, putting you guys all on the spot, we would love for you guys each, as we depart, is there a word of wisdom or some insight that you can give current Black students who are interested in pursuing STEM or who are currently pursuing STEM fields? Any words of wisdom or insight that you can leave with them as we depart?
The big thing that I would tell students to do, and I'll provide Tanisha and Jason some information, but is look for internships. When you're in school, get internships. Don't even try to figure out if you think you're capable or you're qualified. Let somebody else tell you you're not qualified, but you look for internships. So it helps you. One, obviously there's money, but it helps you on your resume for later because you start to have job experience and you start to have that information. Plus you have an idea of what it is to work, even if it's not the exact thing that you're going to be doing. Going back into the whole time management, you know how to show up to a job on time. You understand what a 40-hour workload is, but you're doing it over the summer. You understand how to interact with your coworkers. I think that's a really core skill. A big thing for us is getting in the door. The work is never as hard. I feel like school's harder than work. but you got to get in the door. You got to get in the door. And once you get in the door, then that's when you can shine. Everybody can see your light. And then you can create paths for other people. But internships is a good path to that.
I would say get a mentor. Mentorship, I think someone already spoke on that, but just having somebody to kind of navigate you and help build your confidence and help direct you towards success is so important, especially as a STEM major. And so getting involved in these organizations and getting linked up with people and networking and getting you can have more than one mentor, getting people that are going to be invested in your future and your success, I think is so important.
Hi, I would say to piggyback on Candace and Robert would be to also look for a sponsor, someone who you have actually spent time with and worked with. Because as Robert says, it's getting into the position. It's not that you can't do the position. So you want to spend some time with someone who's willing to vouch for you. I've spent time with them and they're willing to put their name on the line and their credentials on the line to say, give this person an opportunity.
I would say it's it might be a little cliche, but it's we've talked about how hard these fields can be. So it's just remain persistent. Find your network, find your group that's going to help you get through it, and just basically don't stop. Just keep persisting because it gets really, really tough. And I think we can all agree that you're going to hit some bumps in the road, but as long as you stay with it, you should be all right.
Yeah, I used to be a recruiter for my company, and if someone had a good GPA above a 3.0, if they had club experience, and if they had internship experience, that's who we're looking for, right? So if you can get in your clubs, get in your internships, and take care of your grades, there'll be jobs fighting over you. So focus on those three things, like everyone mentioned, and you're set.
I would say that, and I know my narrative is probably slightly different from what maybe what people are expecting, but I honestly believe that part of what I want students to walk away recognizing is that your skills don't just belong to you. That yeah, it's important to go to school and get skills and create a life for yourself and your family, but you have a responsibility to your community. You have a responsibility to your people. There were incredible struggles that our people fought to make these institutions available to us. And it wasn't so that one or two of us or a small group of us could live a great life. It was so that we could advance the whole people. And we have a responsibility to do that. We have a responsibility to turn our skills over the best we can, to be a part of something that will create a future for all Black people and for all humanity that looks a lot better than what we're looking at now. And I think that people in STEM fields have a unique opportunity and responsibility to contribute to that process. So that would be my parting words. Recognize your responsibility to our people.
Was that everyone? I promise I was paid. What okay, yeah. So Thank you guys so much. One thing I wanted to add as well is, when I'm talking to students, don't be afraid of your instructors. If you think about it, Grossmont College, we have some amazing STEM professors, math department, biology department, chemistry department. We have some really, really good instructors who have been doing this for a long time and they care. And so, a lot of times they offer office hours, and I've heard the horror stories where, no student will even show up for the office hours and come pick their brain or come get that extra support. We're talking about finding mentors within your prospective fields. Well, start with your instructor. A lot of times they're going to be the ones writing your letters of recommendation for the next level, or recommending what next level you should be looking at. Even maybe having some advice as to what kind of career approach you should have to that career field. So stop by your instructor's office hours, let them know what your goals are. And then that way those conversations start to happen where it's like, yeah, this is why you will need calculus for the role that you're trying to go into, or this is how it will be important to your future. A lot of times students can get into the habit of, just coming to school, going home, and just going through the process without fully engaging. And no, I'm not banging on students at all, because I know you guys are busy and you guys are working your butts off. But what I'm saying is, use us. We're here for you. You're paying our salaries. Make sure you're getting the most out of us. We are here to serve you guys, and it's absolutely our pleasure to watch you guys get to that next level. And with that said, you guys, we are going to go ahead and wrap up the Grossmont College Black History Month celebration events for 2021. Let's get a clap. This has been amazing, you guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the College YouTube channel. This has been recorded, so if you want to share the link for others who weren't able to attend tonight, all of our recordings are on there from the month of February and our celebration events. Also, follow us on Grossmont Umoja. That's spelled UMOJA. I will be posting on our social media pictures and clips from this event. Sorry, I tried to get everybody's good side while you guys were talking. You guys look beautiful, don't worry. But like I said, I will be posting that. But like I said, thank you for everyone. Thank you for all the students who attended tonight. Thank you to the faculty. Thank you to the administrators and staff. Thank you, Grossmont College. This is Jason Allen and Tanisha Holland signing off. Thank you, guys.